how or why Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi was killed. This phone call happening after my sit-down with the president. Now, earlier today, I had asked the president what he plans to do about this atrocity. So now, part two of my exclusive sit-down with the President of the United States. Watch.
Turkey and Saudi Arabia are looking at it very strongly, and it depends whether or not the king or the crown prince knew about it, in my opinion. Number one, what happened, but whether or not they knew about it. If they knew about it, that would be bad. If they didn't know about it, bad things can happen. You look at what they're doing in Iran. Don't forget, Saudi Arabia is our partner. They're our ally against Iran and against missiles and against what they're doing, trying to take over the Middle East. And by the way, since I'm here, not succeeding. They're heading down the tubes if you look at what's going on. So Saudi Arabia, and they have, I can only say, I've been here for almost 2 years, they've been a great ally to me. To me. They're investing tremendous amounts of money. They're fighting terror. Now, with all of that being said, you can't do what we've been reading about. But we're going to learn a lot about it. Now, one thing I have to say, because you cover business so well, they made the largest order in the history of our country for outside of our country for weapons, for any kinds of military weapons, missile systems, ships. They're buying
from us.
From us. $110 billion they're purchasing. It's 500,000 jobs, American jobs. Everything's made here. Okay, so now people say, well, we want to have you end that order. Well, aren't we just hurting our own country? Because here's what's going to happen. They're going to say, hey, America won't sell us the missiles. We'll buy them from China or we'll buy them from Russia. Ours are better, much better. They'll say America won't sell us the ships. America won't sell us the arms that we need. What we'll do is we'll buy them from Russia, China, and there are some others, France. You know, there are. And
so they benefit financially, and they might then have a more strategic relationship too with those countries.
You have senators and congressmen say, "Oh, if they did that, we should punish them by not selling them equipment." Well, if we don't sell them the equipment, they'll buy lesser quality equipment because we make it's so much better than anybody else. But they'll buy it from Russia. They'll buy it from China. So we're not really hurting them, we're hurting ourselves. So we want to be smart. I don't want to give up a $110 billion order or whatever it is. It's the largest order ever given by an outside country, okay? And I don't want to give that up. You're talking about jobs. What I'm doing, we've created an incredible economy. I want Boeing and I want Lockheed and I want Raytheon to take those orders and to hire lots of people to make that incredible equipment.
Well,
you understand?
Yeah, no, I get it, but it's complicated stuff, and you're looking at jobs here at home and a lot of money for American companies versus what certainly seems as pretty atrocious. Now, we don't know everything, but we don't know. I mean, these are the decisions that you face as president.
Let's hope we hear the proper answers.
You mentioned Jeff Sessions earlier. Yeah. We haven't heard a tremendous amount about the Mueller investigation recently. I imagine we're going to hear more after midterms.
Well, let me just tell you, first of all, there was no collusion. There was no Russia. Do you think I'd call Russia? I need help in Idaho. I need help in Iowa. Oh, let's call Russia. It's a con job, just like so many other con jobs that you've been seeing. It's a total con job. It's a disgrace that they were allowed to do it. This was the Democrats losing the Electoral College, which they should have won easily. I had to run the whole East Coast. They lost, and they come up with this excuse. We lost because of, let's see, Russia. Yeah, Russia. I didn't make one call to Russia. The whole thing is so disgraceful. So it continues. It's a witch hunt. It's nothing more than a witch hunt. And most people get it, including Democrats. They wink at me. They look at me, they wink at me. The Democrats get it too. But we'll see what happens. It just continues onward. And Jeff Sessions should have never let it happen. He should have never recused himself. I mean, here's a man recused himself. Why wouldn't he say, I'm going to recuse myself? I wouldn't have put him in that position.
But he's in the position now. Is he going to stay in the position?
I'm not going to tell you that. We'll see what happens. But I think it was a disgrace. And by the way, my enemies, people that are on the other side, say for him to have taken the job and for him to immediately have recused himself is a disgrace. They say Trump is right about that.
Yeah. Do you think that in some ways Vladimir Putin is kind of getting what he may have wanted? And I say this because it almost didn't matter to the Russians who won, but it certainly mattered in that they wanted to create this this division, because it's harder as a country, right?
Yes, because our Justice Department and FBI played right into their hands with this stupid investigation, or whatever you call it. People say I'm not under investigation. You know, I'm not a target of this investigation, which nobody ever likes to say. But it played right into their hands. Because if they want to sow, they use the word sow chaos. Sow chaos. They got it for nothing. They didn't do it. They got it for nothing. We did it to ourselves. The chaos, the stupid chaos. Now, it hasn't been talked about for a long time because people don't believe it. Who's going to believe that I call Russia to give me help? And everyone does say, Richard Burr the other day, they asked him, he's the head of the Senate Intelligence, and they asked him, did you see collusion? No, I see no collusion. He just said that. You know, they haven't issued their final report, but he said there was no collusion. As you know, the House, Devin Nunes, and they came out with a ruling there was no collusion. But Richard Burr, they asked him the other day during actually the floods in North Carolina, South Carolina, they said, what about this committee? He said, we have found no collusion. You know why? Because there is no collusion.
So collusion aside, I mean, the concern is that Putin and his folks over there in Russia, and maybe the Chinese are trying to do the same thing, are trying to tweak us, right? And they kind of like this division.
They're laughing. Because these people, not me, these people have played right into their hands. Assuming, you know, I keep hearing they like to sow chaos. Sow, a word from Old English. They sow chaos.
Oh, we got some of that right now.
We put it. I mean, it's ridiculous. I believe that they laugh at it. Yeah, it played right into their hands.
So let me ask you
this. With that being said, nobody's been tougher on Russia. No president, at least certainly in the semi-modern era, has been tougher than I have. I gave weapons to Ukraine. Obama gave them pillows. Gave them pillows. That's what he actually gave them, pillows. He wouldn't give them any weapons. I'm the one that brought up the scam of the pipeline, where Germany is paying them billions and billions of dollars for natural gas. I brought it up. Nobody even knew about it. I mean, they knew about it, but nobody talked about it. I made it a big issue.
So your policy's been tough.
Well, look at my policies on energy.
Yes.
She wanted to put windmills all over the place, which don't work. I'm opening up our country to natural gas and to oil and to the kind of things. And
so I gotta ask you.
And that's competition for Russia.
Helsinki, you know, you've got a lot of criticism, including from me. Full disclosure, you know, I wondered why you weren't tougher on Putin, but you've said you had a great meeting. You met with him one-on-one.
Trish,
what happened?
If I was tough, it's easy for me. It's easier for me to be tough. We had a great meeting with him before that. We had a 2-hour meeting, and then we had another meeting, I guess, with a lot of people, and they were great meetings. And it was very tough, but they were great.
Why were they great?
Let me explain. Then we had a press conference. So when I was very tough with North Korea, with Kim Jong-un, everyone said, oh, he's going to cause nuclear war. Well, we're doing great with North Korea, okay, yeah, as you understand. We're doing great. No missiles fired. We got back our hostages, everything. We're doing great. Everybody's saying he's too tough on North Korea. He's too tough. He's going to cause nuclear warfare. Okay? Look how it turned out. With Putin, they want me to go up and have a boxing match with him on stage. I was nice to him. I was nice to him. But what happened is when I walked off the stage, everyone said, oh, that was great. We're on the plane. All of a sudden, the fake news starts saying, oh, Trump wasn't tough enough. And let me tell you, if I was too tough, they'd say Trump was too tough. I could have a very good relationship with Russia. Having a good relationship with Russia would be a good thing, not a bad thing.
Did you tell him in that meeting?
This stupid investigation hurts us from having a good relationship. Don't forget, we're a great nuclear power, but so are they.
Okay.
And having a good relationship is not a bad thing.
Did you tell him in the meeting he's got to knock it off?
I told him, well, let me just tell you what I told him. We talked about Israel. We talked about meddling. I said, no more meddling. If you did meddle, I said, no more meddling. To which he says, I didn't meddle, I didn't meddle. I said, no more meddling. You know, Obama said knock it off, and yet Obama's talking to his second in charge, and he's saying, tell Vladimir I'll talk to him after the election. I mean, look, in terms of meddling, Obama was told in September, just prior to the election, that Russia was trying to meddle in the election.
Right.
He didn't do anything about it. He didn't even say anything about it. He only brings it up after the election. That should be your investigation. Why didn't he do something about it? Here's the good news. It didn't affect one vote. But Obama was told, and everybody agrees to that, but Obama was told before the election in September by the FBI about Russia and possible Russian meddling. You know what he did? Nothing. You know why? Because he thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, and he didn't want to do anything to upset that. And just to finish, the last thing that Putin wants now, I can tell you, is Trump. He'd much rather have Clinton, although I hope
China doesn't want you either, right?
Excuse me?
China doesn't want you either?
Oh, I don't think China's too happy with me, because we are winning with China. For the first time, a man named Pillsbury, an expert.
I know him, Michael Pillsbury.
I saw him, I think, on your show, actually. He said that China, for the first time, he's never seen anything like it. We're doing so well. And he said much more than that, but if I say it, you'll say I'm bragging. I don't want to do that. But we're doing great against China. We're doing great against Russia.
We're going to make sure that none of them interfere, right? That they're not interfering in midterms and they're not interfering in 2020.
Excuse me. I've done more having to do with the new election, the election coming up, than Obama ever did on 2016. Ever.
That's good.
I don't think he did anything. But ask Obama, why didn't he do something when the FBI told him about it? Because he thought Hillary Clinton was going to win.
Hey, quick question. 2020.
Right.
You're running?
Yes, 100%.
Michael Bloomberg might be running?
That's good.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. I think it'd be easy. I think it'd be so easy.
How do you think he'd do?
I don't think he'll get through the Democrats.
In other words, he wouldn't be able to do anything in the primaries because of where the party's going?
I think the Democrats will eat them up. You know, you have a lot of people running. I'm hearing names that are shockingly bad, but they're nasty.
Avenatti?
I think that, I don't think he's a serious person. He's not. I don't think Avenatti, the lawyer, I don't think I just beat him in a big case.
You did? By the way, you're going to have her pay the legal fees? In fact, he has to pay me legal fees.
He
does?
I don't think he has any money, but he and she have to pay me a lot of legal fees, and it's based on Texas. You're going to hold them accountable for that? Based on Texas law. I love Texas. Based on Texas law, where the legal fees are nice and plentiful.
And you'll hold them to that?
Are you serious? Of course.
I'm just asking.
Wouldn't you be disappointed if I said no? No, they'll pay a lot. But no, he's not a serious person. The Bloomberg is.
Well, look, Kevin Yoder in Kansas has got himself in a tough fight, and Republicans always think that moderating on the message that got him elected in the first place is some sort of magical formula for re-election. I disagree. Dance with the one who brung you. And so you find yourself in a terrible catch-22. Nobody's listening, right? That's a joke. But if we lose the House, maybe we'll actually get up off our butts during the lame duck session and keep some of the promises we made 3 years ago. Well, I mean, that's the upside, that the Republicans might act like Republicans.
Well, I think, again, this is the most important issue for most Americans who are answering these polls. Immigration is either number one or number two. And these caravans coming into the country, if Republicans lose the House, it'll get worse. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse.
Except maybe we'll get some courage, right? You see Leader McCarthy now talking about border security. And I'm glad he is, but I mean, why now? I fear that there's a political motivation, which is shameful.
Well, again, I'm not understanding really why Paul Ryan is still in as Speaker of the House. I think if you're going to retire, they think Paul Ryan's going to turn out the voters in 2018. I mean, God bless Paul Ryan. I like him a lot, but you know who's going to turn out the voters? The guy who's flying all over the country right now, Donald Trump. And Congress, I'm telling you, Congress is going to rue the day that they didn't get the money for this wall, they didn't appropriate it, and they didn't change these stupid asylum laws that allow people to be gaming the system and then caught and ultimately released because we do not have the facilities to house them. 700,000 people in an immigration backlog now, court backlog, claiming credible fear and other claims. That's absurd.
Well, and I've prosecuted for the better part of a decade, and domestic violence is a scourge upon any nation, but it's hard to prove domestically. It's real hard to prove when the claim emanates from El Salvador.
Well, right? That's why they're saying it.
I can fear alien abduction, but that doesn't mean that it's actually happening.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think, and you understand this, Congressman Garrett, but the American people are, like we got cities with homeless villages, tent villages. We got veterans on the street. We have people who never were able to get back on their feet after the Great Recession or are opioid addicted. That's how we get to a truly, in my view, a truly colorblind society. And right now we have situations, as we've seen at top universities in the United States, where entire classes of people are being harmed because they end up having to find themselves, I think, discouraged from even applying to certain schools because there are certain standards that are lowered to admit other students from different backgrounds. You see this trial that began yesterday as Harvard's race-based admissions are under fire. And so it's, again, testing how much race matters to get into top schools. Joining us now is Vijay Ingam, who's here to share how easy it is to dupe your way into a good school. And he's an outspoken advocate against affirmative action. He wrote the book a few years back titled Almost Black, The True Story of How I Got into Medical School by Pretending to be Black. Vijay, how are you?
Doing great today.
It's good to talk to you.
On the program.
What do we need to understand about, let's just focus on Harvard because that's in the news, but what do we need to understand about how the admissions process in these schools is gamed by people who play the race card or just by racial considerations, period?
Okay. This weekend I spoke at an anti-affirmative action rally with Edward Bloom. He's the president of Students for Fair Admission, which is suing Harvard. Basically, diversity has become a justification for racial discrimination against Asian Americans and whites at Harvard. According to Harvard's own admissions data, they reduced Asian American enrollment from 43% to 18% through a complicated discrimination scheme. In fact, Harvard's own admissions data shows that an internal think tank concluded they were discriminating against Asian Americans, and they buried the report. That's on trial right now. And one important point I want to make to your audience today is that Harvard receives billions in federal government money. They're literally taking your hard-earned tax money and using it to discriminate against you.
Well, so they take all this money. They have billions in an endowment. I mean, they could basically give free tuition to almost every student and still be swimming in money. But this would mean the federal government is subsidizing racism, a type of racism.
Affirmative, more, but it's not just Harvard. More than 100 universities publicly endorsed racial discrimination in the Supreme Court's Fisher decision. Affirmative action is a nationwide system of government-funded, state-sponsored racism. And it has a huge impact on admissions. So
what do you think is going to happen in this court decision? I mean, the belief that diversity is the founding principle of America is, I mean, I bet if you polled people in colleges and universities, polled the students, most would cite diversity as the founding American principle, which of course America is founded on liberty. It's not founded on diversity. It's founded on liberty. But they think that's sacrosanct. The colleges always list that as a compelling interest in their defense of these lawsuits, that diversity should be a consideration. I think the court has said it can be one consideration, but it can't be, the Supreme Court in the Michigan affirmative action case, but it can't be the only consideration, correct?
You're absolutely right. But I kind of, this is the point I want to. One of the points I made when I spoke at the rally was I had the opportunity to go to UCLA after I got into medical school and dropped out. UCLA is a school that doesn't practice affirmative action in admissions, and I learned that it was possible to have a diverse class of African Americans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, and whites without practicing racial discrimination in admissions. So I don't want anyone to believe that affirmative action is essential for a great quality of education. You can have a great education, you just let people in based on merit because there are smart people of all races, religions, colors, and creeds.